Grooming gangs report to be published. I'll leave it when I see it. But anyway, the findings of a national audit into the sexual exploitation and abuse of children by grooming gangs in England and Wales will be announced later. I forgot because of the devolved powers, Scotland doesn't get one, and because it's SNP and Labour, we never will. Yay. Anyway, Baroness Casey has looked into the scale and nature of grooming and considered data on the gangs and their victims, including ethnicity. Ahead of its publication, the Prime Minister announced at the weekend that, having read the report, there would now be a national statutory inquiry into the issue. Yay! Even though we've been asking for this for like, what, 2 decades? 2 decades now. People have been begging for this ever since it was first like coming to light, like in the late 90s. Yeah, it's been a while, and people are we're finally getting it now. Labour did try and block it an awful lot. Your Honour, I object. Why? Because it would be devastating to my voter base. Right? So that's why Labour didn't want it. Downing Street said the inquiry would look specifically at how young girls were failed so badly by different agencies on a local level. I can tell you why. Police officers blew the whistle. It's because they were told not to go after them because it would make the police look racist. That's what the police said. They said that. That was whistleblowers in the police. That was what they said. They were told not to do it because it could look like a racial maneuver that would make the police look bad. And also, the police are afraid of that demographic community. They're worried about the blowback. Isn't that great? Where the police are so afraid of a certain community that they won't do anything against them at all, so that community gets to do whatever the fuck it wants with impunity. I'm sure that won't result in anything fucking horrible happening. Anyway, Sarah Champion, Labour MP for Rotherham, told the BBC there was an intense frustration that there were still victims and survivors who haven't seen justice. She said there were people who, if not held to a criminal standard, should be held to a professional standard for their negligence in protecting these children. Emma, a grooming survivor, urged other victims to speak up. It's not okay to be groomed, she said. It's weird that in 2025 that has to be fucking said out loud. She said, speak out if you feel that something's not right, don't be scared. Speaking on BBC Breakfast, Shadow Home Secretary Chris Philp claimed there had been a deliberate cover-up by police. You don't say. Local authorities and the Crown Prosecution Service, and he wanted the national inquiry to result in misconduct in public office prosecutions. Yay! It won't happen though. As soon as anything like that happens towards the state, they close fucking ranks. They close ranks immediately. Not, but one thing that I will say, I am that black-pilled on the state of the government that even if just the most raw titanium-clad evidence comes out as a result of this investigation, of this inquiry, not a single person in government's going to be charged or punished for it, or in the police. I guarantee you. I'll say that right now. Not one. Home Secretary Yvette Cooper will address the Commons later as the Casey Review is published. In January, Cooper announced the 3-month audit into ethnicity data and the demographics of grooming gangs and their victims, as well as the cultural and societal drivers for this offending. Another fantastic thing, I can tell you that right now, because the perpetrators of the crimes have came out and announced it themselves. Also members of the community who weren't involved, but basically know these guys and know how they think. It's because if they do it to young girls in their own community, because their community is mental, there will be blowback that they will have to deal with. However, the white man is not allowed to act out against the Muslim man, otherwise that makes the white man racist. Remember when that the dad got arrested for racism for saying a bunch of horrible stuff about the guy that groomed his daughter? Remember that? Yeah, the white man gets punished for it. But basically, they say it's because they can't do it to their own communities because there will be blowback. So they target white girls and Sikh girls and girls from other ethnicities because there isn't blowback from it. And the reason that they do that is because they see white children as scum. They see them as scum. They see them as little whores. They're there to be used. They're there to be abused. That is their perception of young white girls in the country. And that's not me saying that. I'm not being racist. No, that's not me. That's them. They said that. I'm just merely repeating their words back to you. Right? Basically, when they tell you who they are, believe them. Right? As the saying goes. Right? That's why they do it. So basically, hopefully this report will cover that and actually say it for certain that that's why they do it. And also the fact is just nonce is gonna nonce, you know. But anyway, meanwhile, the Home Office said a nationwide policing operation to bring grooming gang members to justice will be led by the National Crime Agency. Police have reopened more than 800 historic cases of child sexual abuse by groups since the Home Secretary asked them to review cases in January. The vulnerable young girls who suffered unimaginable abuse at the hands of groups of adult men have now grown into brave women who are rightly demanding justice for what they went through when they were just children children, Cooper said. Not enough people listened to them then, the Home Secretary added. That was wrong and unforgivable. We're changing that now. Yeah. after after decades of horrendous fucking abuse that have left them scarred for life. Yeah, I mean, better late than never, aye, but hey ho, we've only been asking for this for a long fucking time. But it gets shot down because that Tommy Robinson fella wanted it, and he's a prick, so we shouldn't do it. But anyway, as well as historic investigations, the NCA will look at current cases with the aim to imprison more perpetrators and improve how police forces investigate crimes. It will also aim to put an end to the culture of denial in local services and authorities about the prevalence of this crime, the Home Office said. Because you can't be honest about statistics because they might make people racist. But anyway, Barony Casey has recommended the government follow best practice law enforcement examples in the NCA and in the West Yorkshire Police, a Home Office source told the BBC. I believe best practice law enforcement is if someone has committed a crime, you arrest them for that crime, especially when the crime involves young, vulnerable girls. You know, maybe that's just me, but hey ho. The Home Office said the National Inquiry would be able to compel investigations into historic cases of grooming gang crimes and will have the power to call witnesses. That would ensure complaints and allegations of mishandling, wrongdoing, and cover ups by police agencies and other professionals and elected officials are brought to light, and those responsible held accountable, the Home Office added. But former Chief Prosecutor for North West England, Nazir Afzal, said that he had doubts about a national inquiry as they take forever and don't deliver accountability. Only criminal investigations can bring real accountability, he told BBC Radio 4's Today programme. That's what needs to happen, not just for those who offended, but also those who stood by and didn't do what they were meant to do. Which is fair. On Saturday, Sir Keir said he would accept Baroness Casey's recommendations for the inquiry covering England and Wales. Yeah, well done, you got there eventually, Keir. It was just, your people that were on the line. But hey ho, I suppose maybe you care now. The Prime Minister had faced criticism for not being willing to set up a national inquiry, with the Conservatives claiming they had forced him into a U-turn. No, it's because you realised it was annihilating your voter base. That's the thing, is the way to work politicians is they don't actually care about people, they care about votes. Basically, if there's a risk to the people, politicians will do nothing. If there's a risk to their votes, oh shit, that's when they'll act. So basically, if you say, hey, my daughter got raped, can you, look into it? And they say no, just go, yeah, we're starting a group to, not vote for you. That's when they go, oh, my good man, brah, shake hand, fuck it, we'll look into this post-haste. Like that. It's basically, they don't care about the people, they care about their power, right? So when you see if you want something done, start threatening their power. Unfortunately, that's the way politics works. Tech billionaire Elon Musk was also among those to criticise Sir Keir for not earlier calling a national inquiry. A row between the two centred on high-profile cases where groups of men, mainly of Pakistani descent, were convicted of sexually abusing and raping predominantly young white girls in towns such as Rotherham and Rochdale, those names that unfortunately everybody knows. In January, the government argued the grooming gangs issue had already been examined in a 7-year inquiry by Professor Alexis Jay. The problem is you're asking the police and the social services to investigate themselves, and of course they are going to say that they have done nothing wrong. That's what happens when you get to be in charge of your own investigation, right? If I was in charge of the Nazi Pug investigation, not only would I be completely exonerated, I would have awarded myself a fucking OBE, I would have given myself $100,000 compensation, I would have said that the Queen must sit on my lap. Nah, she's dead. I'm going to stop there. I'm going to stop there. That joke was about to get really fucked up. Previous government reports, reviews, inquiries, and investigations. I'm about to crown your prosecution service, bitch. But anyway, over the past 15 years, I've already warned about group-based child sexual exploitation. Professor Jay's report, which finished in October 2022, under the previous government, made 20 recommendations for change, but none have been implemented. Now, yeah, it's nice that an inquiry is finally being done. However, will anything actually happen as a result of it? Probably not.